Halo Infinite has officially gone gold, which means it's ready to go, folks. I mean, sure, there's a little bit of the disappointment with the lack of co-op and Forge, and the fact that those things were delayed. But I think overall the game, especially the multiplayer, is really fun. Some of the previews for the campaign look like it's going to be really well put together. And even though I was looking forward to going through a co-op, and now I have to go through it solo, I still think that it really is going to be a very much Halo campaign that takes you back sort of to the roots of Halo, maybe that original open world-esque type situation. So I'm very excited to see that and to look forward to that. And you know what, I think that overall Halo is going to be I think graphically maybe a mixed bag, but I do think that they've nailed some of the harder points with the graphics and the performance, which is going to be the most important thing with the game, because it feels very, very tight when you play it, and it feels very responsive, and I think that's hugely important for any type of multiplayer. But Digital Foundry went over it with a fine-tooth comb, and so I wanted to cover what they covered. It's definitely a video you don't want to miss. Hey there everyone, I'm the Crapgamer, and of course this is Crapgamer Reviews, your home for gaming news, opinions, reviews, and much more. You'll maybe notice some of the changes around here, and hopefully that doesn't stop you from giving us a like, and possibly even consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. Thank you so much for choosing to spend some of your free time with me and my silly YouTube channel. It really does mean a lot. So Halo Infinite, I ended up wearing egg on my face over that. Obviously Digital Foundry was testing the campaign on the Series X, and they really had some fantastic things to say about it. So Halo Infinite's multiplayer is already out in the wild, allowing players to pick apart the game's performance to their heart's content. But what about the game's single player campaign? How will it perform? Well, the tech heads at Digital Foundry got to go hands-on with the preview code of the campaign, and their findings are very interesting. So I'm going to link this article. You guys can check it out. And in the article, they link the actual YouTube video. So you guys can feel free to check that out as well, because that's going to be obviously very important going forward to see how everything's kind of fared. So Digital Foundry played the game on both the Xbox Series X and the Series S. And on the more powerful console, the news is pretty good. On Xbox Series X, quality mode runs at a dynamic 4K and mostly solid 60 frames per second, which is something most games preserve for their performance mode. Speaking of which, Halo Infinite's Xbox Series X performance mode targets 120 frames per second with a pretty heavy cost to resolution, which drops it down to about 1080p. Frame rate is also rather inconsistent, rarely achieving a full 120 frames per second, and instead largely hovering around the 100 to 110 frames per second range. So performance mode is maybe a touch shaky, but why do you need to even use it when quality mode runs at 4K and a consistent 60 frames per second, which is something I think a lot of people are going to be talking about. I mean, listen, I understand what they wanted to go for with the 120, but honestly, if you could have got a native 4K 60 frames per second with all the bells and whistles, or 1440p with 60 frames and all the bells and whistles, I would have much rather gone for that. But it does look like in their standard mode to get 4K 60 is quite the feat, to be quite honest with you. So unfortunately the news isn't good for the Series S. Quality mode is locked at 1080p and only 30 frames per second, while performance mode is a dynamic 1080p while targeting 60 frames per second. Now on the bright side, it seems like both modes mostly stick to their target frame rate. The Digital Foundry guys also lightly criticized the Series S use of temporal anti-aliasing, saying it gives the game a somewhat soft look in motion. Of course, there's a pretty big elephant in the room here. If the Xbox Series S needs to drop down to 30 frames to maintain a basic 1080p image, how is Halo Infinite's campaign going to run on Xbox One? So maybe 343 can pull off some technical wizardry, but on basic Xbox One S, I suspect we're going to be approaching 720p and maybe even verging into sub-HD territory. So Halo Infinite's campaign launches on December 8th, so right around the corner. But a lot of people obviously are going to be talking about it, and I think a lot of people are going to be, pleasantly surprised by the fact that this thing is able to kind of accomplish what it's been able to accomplish, and 343 kind of come back out of nowhere to be able to deliver some positive news here. And I think once again, Halo is going to be the recipient of, I think, good news, just by the fact that at the end of the day, Halo is really kind of facing, you would think, an uphill battle going against Call of Duty, as well as a situation with Battlefield, but that's just not the case. feels sort of weird because I was really looking forward to playing through the Halo campaign co-op, like I've kind of stated numerous times, and the fact that it's not going to be able to do that now, because waiting 6 months to do that just wouldn't be feasible. It would end up pretty much destroying the actual any kind of story, because people are going to spoil that. And that's just, that's not really a blame on anybody. I mean, after 6 months, people would probably be in the right to be talking spoilers out. After a few weeks, people are would be in their right to kind of talk spoilers or whatever. But for me personally, I think that I would really love to see this game for myself, and so to be able to do that, I have to go back on what I had previously said. So I know some people want to use that as like, oh, we got you, we busted you, whatever, you know what I mean? But for me, I just look at it as waiting till February would have been one thing, waiting till May or June, a completely different scenario. So I know obviously a lot of people are gonna try to dump on what I've said previously, and you know what, that happens. So I fully expect that. But again, to see Digital Foundry really kind of rave over what the Xbox Series X can do, we're finally starting to see some of that power put to good use, and I love seeing that. I love hearing that. And when you have the world's most powerful console, you want to see it put to good use, and I like that we're finally starting to see that. And at the end of the day, gamers are going to be gamers, and we're going to be just having fun and playing some great games, and that's what gets me really excited about everything that's going on right now. And so hopefully you guys are excited about the future and things like that. It's not a knock on PlayStation. I think obviously when Sony does their first party stuff, they're going to be absolutely killing it in terms of graphically and stuff like that as well. There was actually some interesting information that came out that Tim Sweeney was the one that suggested that solid state drive for the PlayStation 5, so good call there, because that thing's magnificent. But with that being said, I would really appreciate you guys if you would just give me a simple like or whatever. We're trying to rebuild, trying to do some things here that can actually help help the channel out. And I think just relaxing and having fun with games again is a big part to that. So would definitely appreciate it if you guys would just wouldn't mind doing that, because again, it's just a nice thing to do. So what do you guys think about this? Do you guys think Digital Foundry is maybe overstating things or simplifying things? For me personally, I think that that's not the case. I think that the Xbox Series X is really just doing a fantastic job of putting out a first party game. Now, is Halo the best looking game of all time? I think that's not ever going to be the case, but it is, I think, looks better than what we originally saw. So we should be pretty thankful for that they were able to go out there and kind of improve some things as well. So I would love to see what you guys think about this, though, because as far as I'm concerned, it's just one of those things that I'm gonna just kind of enjoy. And I think Halo really kind of surprised me with what it's been able to do. So with that being said, thank you guys very much for rocking out with me. Have a tremendous day. Rack 'em up, fact 'em up, crap gamer 'em up, crap gamer out.